Well, you know what they say about peace. An eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. If you think that peace is costly, check the price of war. A good place to start this morning. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Kuka. Of course, always blessed among wonderful men. Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning, Z. Bukola.
How are you doing? Well done, Jeffrey. Quite a conversation yesterday.
It's quite a conversation. But good morning and welcome to the program.
It is Thursday. Friday. This is very close. We can do this. Well, welcome to your perfect day start to the morning brief. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Can we just take a moment away from the river or rivers, as the case may be, and just appreciate the world? And I'm glad you started on that note that an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. But that's if you are involved in the eye for an eye, back and forth. The best thing is just to stay away from it.
Well, you know
entirely.
that sometimes the consequence of those at the war front trickles all the way back to the hinterland and the communities.
And you wonder,
during war, women and children suffer the most. So
Absolutely.
Those at the forefront must always rethink their actions.
They have to, but sometimes it will take the people at the hinterlands to knock some sense into them, really.
Okay.
When you think about it, at the end of the day, the majority are the people, right, who are usually at the receiving end. The people who are not even involved remotely, either directly or indirectly, they're mostly in the majority. And if we say this is democracy and majority, and that's why I've asked time and again, what do the people want? What do your constituents want? I don't think they're in the conversation. It's just, we'll talk to you guys later, but let's fight this war. But at the end of the day, I think we need to just knock some sense into ourselves. An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind.
For me as a person, the biggest beneficiaries of democracy sometimes are the destroyers of those democracy. Example, politicians. If you read through history, besides what happened in 1993, politicians have been responsible for destroying democracy. And that's why we must have a responsibility on our shoulder to check politicians to be temperate in all that they do. The boiling state of rivers with the rhetorics and all of that is totally very concerning. And I want to just put a word maybe to the Honorable Minister of the FCT to be temperate in his emotion. Yesterday, his outburst was very concerning. Bordering on impugning, bordering on being cheeky, even bordering on disparaging. I know he called the governor a boy a couple of times. I know he made sweeping statement on the state judiciary. He made sweeping statement on an organization, code names and all of that. And the one that for me, Kayode and Bukola, is totally unacceptable is about talking about journalists not reading. That's not acceptable at all. We know the time and work we put in to read all these CTCs and get information to explain us. I'm happy the journalists pushed back. They were not wrong in saying that the cases are still, the core issue about defection is still at the High Court or Court of Appeal. Although Justice Chioma Iheme had actually spoken to the issue of defection, and there's a way she went around it. And even she admitted in that as CTC that this is a novel case. Yes, the court has decided over and over about the issue of defection. She also talked about the fact that this incident had happened even before the House members, the four, have actually started sitting before the issue of defection. More like, quote unquote, they were already being bullied before the defection. So there is a case, or there are cases, I think there are about two, I understand, that were instituted after the defection. So the journalists were not wrong. So I think it was very insulting to hear him say journalists don't read. That's very unacceptable in my view, because there's a lot of work being put in. We're not just playing here. We do a lot of work to make sure we consume this information and get the interpretation and give the people the information they need. But I guess he was just angry and he just was in an outburst. Maybe one day he's going to apologize for some of the statements he made. Guys?
Well, Jeffrey, you did a job of work yesterday, highlighting aspects of the Supreme Court, verdict that led to blocking the CBN and all the other agencies from releasing funds to the River State government. And I took some time to look at some of the highlighted portions without, going through all of it, because it's a lot to read. The Supreme Court pretty much talks about how the other party has not proven its case of defection, because defection is a destination. You can't just go ahead to say that a party has defected when the the party where they defected to has not acknowledged their defection with records and all of that. But the judge then went on again to say that it's a matter of, internal affair of the party, that it's only the party that can determine membership. Well, that for me felt like, speaking from both ends of the mouth, because the judges shouldn't have even, expressed an opinion about defection being a destination in the first place. But we're going to put that before, expert legal views such that they can weigh in on the matter. Those are observations. And then again, the pattern of the conflict in Rivers is becoming pretty worrying, particularly with the comments of the Minister of the FCT that the Jaws do not have an exclusive preserve of blowing up pipelines and, who is handling contracts and all of that. We worry that this may be taking on an ethnic dimension, particularly with, the reactions of the other, groups within Rivers State. Rivers State is one, regardless of which ethnic group is majority or minority. And let's not forget what got us to this legal conundrum in the first place. It's a conflict between political godfather and political godson. The real details are not even before the public. So we call on both warlords to return to the table and talk this through such that the people of Rivers State will not suffer. Remember, the withdrawal of funds will affect the people of Rivers State, not necessarily, in fact, not Governor Fubara nor Governor Wike.
We just hope that this comes to an end. There are so many missteps on both sides of the divide. We want to look at the Wike side, there are missteps. You want to look at the Fubara side, there's misstep. But everybody's literally grandstanding. Nobody's going to win. But that's going to be the first conversation.
I actually said we would take a break from Rivers, but see where we are, just right smack in the middle of Rivers.
I apologize for bringing us in. I needed to respond to the statement he made about journalists. That is not acceptable. Can never be acceptable to me. To say that journalists don't read. It doesn't work like that. That is actually what we do. Reading, that's what we do.
Well, that's just a by effect or by
anger or burst of
emotion out. And I think that's why sometimes you just get tired of this conversation.
Absolutely.
As individuals, as journalists, you just come on.
You just want to run away.
The very important things that we should deal with as a nation.
Well, if you watch the pattern of the media chats with Governor Wike and journalists, is always going after them about not reading. I guess they're pretty much
No, I can't sit there and say,
I understand how you feel.
No, I cannot sit there and the minister say you don't read. I'm going to push back, and I'm going to insist on it until he accepts. Because I can't say all ministers are incompetent and he accepts it. It doesn't work.
But our colleagues did a good job.
They push back.
Yeah.
By the way, Rivers is at the forefront today, so that's what we'll start from, all the conversation. But I think everybody just wants peace. Whether they should get a room and settle themselves, we don't know. But resolution, this is becoming too disturbing. But it feels like there's no end to this battle, and this war, this supremacy battle. We do not know how it's going to end. But we'll bring you all sides of what played out yesterday. Simultaneously, yesterday, both things were happening simultaneously. The parley was going on, and the governor showed up at the House of Assembly, even though the speaker did not return the call or accept the invitation. It was just a messy situation. But we're going to talk about it as the first part of our conversation.
And besides that, we're still in Rivers, by the way. We'll be speaking with the chairman of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, who is one of the PANDEF, which is one of the many groups calling for an end to the political crisis in Rivers. So we're still in search of peace.
While we're searching for peace, let's search for profit. Right.
I like that.
Very important.
I like that.
Check our
He doesn't want to swim in the rivers at all.
You know, you don't want to get...
He's exhausted, right?
Come on.
You don't want to get wet or burned.
Yes, our man, the man himself.
Yeah.
I like this picture. Lado Williams.
We're in the world of business, and he'll be bringing us up to speed with the happenings in the stock market and foreign exchange market.
Well, besides, go ahead, Jeffrey.
And we'll be talking about enhancing trade efficiency. What exactly are policies in terms of reforms and the Nigerian Customs Service? We're going to explore what they do and how they can do it even better. Beyond tariff and all of that, promotion of trade and enterprise is a core responsibility of the customs. So we will look at all shades and joined by the people in authority within the customs to bring us up to speed as to their activities.
And from the national, we'll trigger down to the subnationals to check on what exactly is happening with Lagos State, to be precise. We'll be speaking with the Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology, Olatubosun Alaki, who is leading efforts to position Lagos as a tech-driven economy. So that promises to be an exciting conversation.
Call it Lagos Valley. And finally on the show, we'll be having a chat with Merje Novayoza, an abstract expressions artist who is redefining the visual art landscape.
Okay, so those are the highlights and the things we'll be talking about. It's a packed show, so just get ready. If you drink coffee early part of the morning, do people drink coffee at about this time? Maybe, yeah.
Well, some do at this point also.
Okay.
People are fasting.
Let's not forget,
so
people are fasting.
Oh, people are fasting, yes. For those that are not fasting, whatever it is you sip to get your eyes open to be part of the show, please do that. CTV Morning Brief, hashtag CTV Morning Brief is how you post on X to get attention, as well as the WhatsApp number up and running. We can also show you our email address. You can send your messages, whatever it is, a material, a story you want us to look at. You can send it to our email address. It will scroll on your screen at some point on the show. But hey, let's move away from all of this to what the dailies are now saying, guys. I think we should start from this Nigeria, right? We hardly start from this Nigeria. So today, let's start from this Nigeria.
We always start from Nigeria. This particular Nigeria.
This particular Nigeria.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Rivers Assembly drama, Fubara playing to the gallery, says Wike. I was denied access to our Assembly quarters, Governor. We were not aware of his sudden visit, lawmaker. So this has been a back and forth. They said there's a process for you to visit the legislature. You write to them. They respond to you. They read the letter at plenary and make proper arrangement for your coming. So that's why Nyesom Wike, the FCT Minister, says is playing to the gallery. But some have also argued to the effect that they were the one that gave him ultimatum. He didn't meet that ultimatum. In fact, what has been going on is, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. This argument about correspondence. You know that correspondence has kept us where we are now. Just, I write letter to you, you refuse the letter. How should the letter have been written? It was supposed to be. We have been on that since the Supreme Court judgment till today. So yesterday we understand, or 2 days ago, the governor said he wrote a letter. We saw that letter. They said he made phone calls and all of that.
I was waiting for you to come up with that as well.
But he said they did not respond to him. So the big question was, some people have said, if they didn't respond to you, why did you show up? You should have waited for them to respond. Others have said, it's okay. So it's just a situation.
Former Governor Wike, Minister Wike was right to say that, you know, there's a particular way with politics. You don't
he was right on that.
You don't go formal because there should be an informal.
He was talking about political
relations
tax.
Have been frosty, and that's true. But the governor said he wrote and he also made calls, and he hasn't gotten any response. And the governor has to act on the president's orders, because the president has said, look, go and do the right thing, present the budget before the Rivers State Assembly. So the governor is left with little choice here, where the State Assembly is unresponsive. So we're waiting to hear from the State Assembly.
I think the core thing here is perhaps you should have waited. Someone said now, because at the end of the day, they needed to respond. At least if you're coming to my house, because it's an arm of government, let's not forget as well. So I guess what Nyesom Wike was saying was, look, utilize back channels first.
Absolutely.
Utilize the back channels first and exhaust back channels so that all this front-end conversation and back and forth will be taken away. But, you know, these are politicians. They know what they're doing. I always believe politicians know what they're doing. I never make that mistake in my life again. I will never make that mistake in my life.
Let me quickly contrast.
Because they make kiss and make up
they always do.
In a few months' time, and then you're left hanging.
But I want to quickly contrast two incidents. They're not linked, but they're similar. And that's still on the front page of this Nigeria. So you see the Rivers Assembly matter. And then at the bottom of the big picture on the front page of this Nigeria, let's just show you that. You see Tinubu Obasa lawmakers meet in Aso Villa over Lagos Assembly in Broglio. So it's also an assembly issue, right, with the executive or otherwise, whether they want to admit it or not, but it's what it is, right? But see the way things are being handled. It's quite different. And I don't know. I know there's always that back and forth about Is there some difference in the way we practice politics, even in the different regions of the country? But one thing is sure, whatever politics will not lead to development and peace is not the right brand of politics.
So from there, let's take a look at Blueprint newspaper this morning, which takes a slightly different turn from the other papers. Listen to the big story. Senate summons security chiefs, urges intervention in Gwer West. And there's just one rider there. It says Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension has no link with sexual harassment. Well, that's taking, it's just the consensus that the treatment of her suspension has crowded out the more important issue. But about the big story, guys, on the front page of Blueprint newspaper, the politics at the national level and the state, assembly levels in Rivers and, Lagos seems to be, pushing to the background what is happening in terms of security in some states. There's an ongoing conversation about the concern of security in Edo, in Ondo, in Oyo, I believe, and, with concern, Benue also. And, we've stayed with that conversation on Benue for some time about suspected herders attacking communities and going on a killing spree. And don't forget also that the governor of Oyo State had drawn the attention of his colleagues, his contemporaries in the southwest, that those who are fleeing the heat of military intervention in the northwest are relocating to the forests in the southwest, but he assures that the security agents will go after them. And the governor of Lagos State has also weighed in on that in some reports that he gets daily, reports about the security situation in forests within Lagos domain daily. But the more important, matter here is how well are the state governors collaborating to ensure that the state, not just the urban centers and the rural areas, but the forests are also safe for habitation for the entire southwest, such that we don't, find ourselves in a situation where, we now require more intervention, military intervention, as we've seen in the northeast and in the north central, in the southwest as well. So security is an emerging big conversation in the southwest as far as this particular report is concerned. Guys.
Let's turn our attention now to the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune also leads with the Rivers matter, and it's a statement from former governor and the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike saying nothing will happen if Fubara is impeached. Blasts PDP governors and WC, everything you've heard already, right, during the course of this conversation. But what really catches my interest is a big picture on the front page, and that's affected structures at Aleshiloye Market in Ibadan in the aftermath of that fire late Tuesday. And at the Aleshiloye Market, for those who may not know Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, is a big market. You have different sections of the market. And, just seeing aerial pictures of the damage that the fire caused to the plastic section of that market, it's just heartbreaking. And hearing some of the market women speak, some of them used the proceeds from their stalls to raise their children, to help their family, and it's all gone. All gone. And you just wonder, there's talk about whether or not there's insurance. It's not really a thing in this part of the world, which is another conversation we need to have. But right now, they need all of the help and support they can get, because that market rakes in millions. It's responsible for the livelihoods of a lot of people. So that's really what is concerning to me right now on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. You see traders count losses as fire raises over 70 shops at Aleshiloye Market. 3 shop owners hospitalized.
And many breadwinners there.
It's very, very unfortunate. That even reminds me, I think it's even on the front page of the Tribune of the that incident at the Tadala Bridge. We understand 2 people died. I think one person was a corn seller. I understand it's gas. It's gas, not PMS.
Not PMS.
So you can imagine a corn seller. That gas gets to it. It was just boom.
It was just going to explode.
You understand? So gas travels in the air. And that's how the person perhaps selling the corn, I was told, selling corn late into the night, or about that time. So that the movement of that, you know, gaseous whatever, is what causes inflammation.
I'd covered a gas explosion there.
It's very deadly.
About 5-6 years, and you could see bodies strewn on the floor in the drainage system. And people raised concerns about the position of that the gas station there. I love that place because I usually take a detour just to buy corn, roasted corn, on that route. So I'm very sure that I will know that.
There's a lady I know that I had to ask, is it the lady? Nobody really knows who the person is, but it was quite sad to see. So when we say, for PMS, we say if there's an explosion, run. If there's a gas explosion, fly, literally. Don't run. If you have the capacity to fly.
That's if you're able to, because it just happens so fast.
If you have the capacity to fly, fly away, literally. So that's why when people cite gas stations around residential areas, the area there's always an issue. Because if anything goes wrong, that's it. The impact is very, very, anyway, our thoughts and our prayers are with those affected at this very difficult time. But let's wrap up with Nigerian News Direct. The one we've already said, Lagos Assembly crisis. Tinubu brokers peace, urges lawmakers to support Obasan's leadership. The reason why we always say this, so you can see the contrast between this and Rivers. There's a big brother posture. There's a senior man in the game who can call people to order and say, look, after all, we're from the same family. We may have bruises from this battle, however you want to look at it. But because you can clearly see the assembly members are not happy when this happened. But
well, you know, for me, Jeffrey,
but Rivers
the big question would be, what does it mean to be a state assembly member in Nigeria? Does it mean you lose completely your individuality, your convictions as a Democrat, as a politician? Because either there's a big brother rule or there's another voice of Jacob and hand of Esau elsewhere. It doesn't matter what you believe, you have to dance to the tune of whoever the paymaster is.
You let the cat out of the bag, because that's a conversation we're going to have very soon. So watch out.
Yeah, watch out for it. Let me help you. Most of the houses of assembly, or some of the houses of assembly, so let's not make a sweeping statement that I accuse the minister of. Some of the houses of assembly are not independent, you understand, unfortunately. I want to use it carefully. Are not independent because what we see play out at the end of the day just tells a story, which is why the military formed SDP and NRC and told politicians, choose one which you will serve in. That's why they don't have, I'm a founding father of the FZP, I was a register, my signature was on the NRC. No, military formed two parties. I say, you want to join anyone you like, because they didn't want founders, they wanted joiners. Anyway, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation for today. And Rivers State is naturally a place to start. But I think before we get to that conversation, let's find out what people are saying. Maybe it's a good time
to start with trends.
All right, you have those ones.
So, where would be a good place to start this morning?
Naturally, Rivers.
Rivers. Okay, so let's go to Rivers.
The more you run away, the more Rivers is in your face. What in the world? Right there.
I thought you didn't want to do Rivers at all.
Well,
so you do us the honors this time.
People are talking about Rivers.
We're newsmen. If the people are talking about it, there's nothing we can talk about.
I'll talk about it. And Captain MD, particularly about, a lot of things happened yesterday. So there was a talk from the minister, the FCT minister. There was what was happening inside the assembly quarters.
Same time.
It's the quarters, by the way. It's not the house. They said they had to move to the quarters. So that's where plenary happens. So when you see visual, you see that they're in a very small room compared to what it used to be. And there was what was happening outside the quarters yesterday. But this comment is as to what happened around the assembly quarters area. And Captain MD speaks to this. That's Governor Fubara being locked out of the River State Assembly and prevented from presenting a budget. Take a look at what Captain MD, the very first comment, says. I only hope things don't go or get beyond control in River State. So what is control exactly? When will it get out of control?
Is it already out of control?
So far, I think control is miles away from where this is right now. He says, because federal people won't leave state matters alone. Why should a federal man be intervening too much in a state issue? There will be no winners. Only the Rivers people will feel the pain. So who is the federal man right? Is there a federal man?
Well, I'm sure when you talk about federal man, talking about Nyesom Wike, who serves in the federal cabinet. So at the end of the day...
isn't he also a statesman?
Well, Kade,
Kade,
you
you have the
answer that
answer to the
question. It's not my problem. you're just
People wanted to talk rivers. Now I'm talking rivers here.
No, we have an entire segment dedicated to rivers. Okay, so let's move on to Adetunji. It says a clear sign that the power struggle in the state is far from over. I can tell you the truth. It's very far from over. Who really controls the legislature? I remember when I spoke to Tony Cole and I told him this is a battle of attrition. He said, yes, you're correct. It's about who bleeds out and dies first.
Oh dear.
Yeah, those are his words.
And that comes with great impact. I'm trying to internalize it, but don't worry. We'll delve into that conversation. This next one is from Okundalaye Henry. I hope I got your name correctly. Okundalaye. Okay, so you say this whole thing will only stop the state from making progress and further discourage investors.
Okay, I think that's from Emelobe Obinna. Okundalaye says, nobody's above the rule of law. We should follow what the Supreme Court has ordered.
All right, so that's for the governor. Now let's talk about the FCT minister, whom you guys say has been described as a federal man. So when he said nothing will happen if Fubara is impeached, a lot of people have been talking about that as well. Safety cabal is first on this. Says that statements like this can start trouble if care is not taken, especially from the overzealous supporters from both sides.
Justice Omodiagbe is next, and Justice says Wike should refrain from making statements that can heat up the polity. He can be impeached without boasting about it. Just do your thing quietly. I wonder if you mean he can't be impeached.
No, I say, yeah, he can be impeached without making inflammatory statements, because when it comes to Nigeria, religion, ethnicity, and those divided are very sensitive. So, and when you're a leader at that level, you should be do it with tact and being cautious, whether they are minority or not. You have to be very careful. Zaradin Saleh said, politics in River State is like a chessboard. One move can change the entire game. But the question is, who holds the real power? I like the thinking.
But chess is not native to us, so we can talk about Ayo or something. Let's support made in Nigeria. Anyway, well, point taken, that makes sense, absolutely. Finally, the election oil fire, market fire in Ibadan, which we talked about earlier on, also is of concern. Take a look at what Finex has to say about the fire in Ibadan, right? It says traders losing their livelihoods overnight is devastating. The government must step in to support them. We need to have that conversation about, insurance as well. I know that it's not something you probably want to talk about right now. First of all, you need to take care of the ones. There are people who are hospitalized, for example. There are people who are still counting their losses, so they don't want to hear about what I should have done, right? But hey, we need to find a way to still have this conversation. So it's really sad this happened. But how do we prevent the next fire? That's on the safety side. But how do we prevent you from being hit by that kind of loss too much on the insurance side?
Very important questions there, Kaidi. And, this is where the morning brief comes in. We also always bring you that regular segment that pretty much, equips you with information on how to ensure your safety in different ways. Safety with fire, the use of the fire extinguisher, security, safety tips for women and all of that. So you can, just go back and watch some of those editions with our safety expert who always comes through. But this one is from Adetunji Adewolu, who says, how many more markets must burn before fire safety becomes a priority? So I think the easy answer to that question is, while we always, do well to bring government to account when government doesn't do what it should do, the marketers also, the traders must take responsibility for their safety with, adequate knowledge, training, fire drills, ensuring that fire extinguishers are in each shop at the markets. So those are, givens as far as safety is concerned.
And that the fire trucks have water. Yeah. I had a conversation with a big organization, government establishment in Nigeria that burnt last year. And they were telling me that, when eventually they came, there was no water. They had to buy water and even rely on, I think, a military arms and fire service to quench the fire. The place is still burnt right now. You still see the whole burnt, a story building burnt.
Those are the issues. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll switch gears, of course, to get started with what's playing out in River State. Is the war far from over? We do not know. Join us again.
So we dive right into the reverse conversation, and joining us on this particular bit is the CEO of TAF Africa, Mr. Jake Epelle. Good morning and welcome to the program, Mr. Epelle.
Good morning, my beautiful sister. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the great people of River State, the resilient state.
Yeah, and you're looking resplendent, by the way, in blue, but we wish that the situation in Rivers is just the same, but we can't say so at the moment, Mr. Epelle. Just when we thought that with the turn of events, particularly with comments from the River State governor saying that they will look at the Supreme Court judgment, when the CTC arrives, their legal team will look at it and he'll be willing to abide by the judgment. We now see this particular turn of events. What really is happening in Rivers? What are your thoughts on the back and forth between Governor Sim Fubara and Minister Nyesom Wike?
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful question. I think the whole world is watching, and I think the whole world is seeing what is going on in River State. It's mere constitutional breach, crisis. It's unfortunate that both sides of the divide, it looks as though, especially the pro-Wike group, it looks as though they have failed to realize that there are differences in the Constitution for the executive power and the legislature. The very thing that they are asking Fubara to do, they are now in violation. They are in violation of the Supreme Court judgment, as far as I'm concerned, in my personal opinion. You said to this young man, come and represent budget. And he came, he humbled himself and came to the very place where you have been meeting and passing law, and you locked him out. This is an aberration, because I've never seen where a sitting governor of a state is so humiliated, and yet he's humble to do the needful. This is not about who you're supporting. This is about supporting the people of River State that are suffering this political meandering, that are suffering this political suffocation. And I'm saying to everybody concerned, enough is enough. I didn't want to stay in Abuja and be analyzing the situation. I've been here. I flew out of Geneva, jumped into the plane, came here myself to see things myself. I was on the part of some form of peaceful discussion with Chi Deloitte. We both agreed that we are going to see what we can do. All of a sudden, everybody has freezed. But this is not right. What is happening to Governor Fubara is not right. And I don't care if Wike is in the same position. I will come out and speak forcefully. This is complete disregard to the Supreme Court ruling. This is complete disregard. You said he called for a meeting. You failed to show up. And I'm saying this because I have all the communication, including text messages. I was told that there was some form of engagement with the speaker. I mean, how low can you go? How low can you go? This is not the character, integrity that we all pay lip service. This, we must put a stop to it. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Think about the political solution, ask them to sign. All the parties signed. What happened to the third aspect of that political solution? That political solution clearly says that they have decamped from PDP to APC. It's there, signed by all the parties now who are saying that they did not decamp. But that's not the subject matter. The subject matter is what is going on, because I saw myself, not anybody didn't tell me, how Fubara went to them by himself, how a governor was negotiating with a gate man. His chief of staff was negotiating with a gate man, and he was told, oh, you have to call the speaker, otherwise I will not open the door. I mean, what? How low can we go?
Mr. Epelle.
In the words of... Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Epelle, sir, you know, apparently both sides are doubling down, or they are, I don't know, there's a lot of grandstanding. So for the benefit of our audience, maybe we'll backtrack a bit to see, before I ask my question. The first part, as soon as the Supreme Court gave the judgment, the first people to make any move were the assembly members. They said, Governor, come and present the budget in 48 hours. That generated a controversy. Some people are saying, why should they command the governor? It's not right to have commanded the governor, and all that went on. And they said that the governor had written a letter, put out a letter saying that, look, or a press statement, if you will, saying they didn't see any communication as to presenting that budget. That's before the day elapsed. The assembly members brought out their own evidence to say, we couriered the resolution of the House, but it was sent back. And then we now fast forward to what happened yesterday. We understand that before even what happened yesterday, the SSG has written to the speaker. That was another issue. They said it shouldn't have been the SSG, it's supposed to have been the governor. The governor now wrote, well, he didn't get a response. He said he made calls, no response. We even saw videos of trying to give the letter at the, I think, personal residence of the speaker and even the quarters. Why I built all this to where it is, because the governor showed up even without getting a response from the assembly. Should he have done that? That's question number one. Question number two, don't you think the governor should look for any means possible and necessary to use back channel and exhaust that back channel before doing anything public to avoid the embarrassment that happened yesterday?
You know, Jeffrey, you asked a very intelligent question, but let me try and answer you one after the other. One, the issue of the governor trying to communicate through the social media, and I was told that he actually transmitted the letter to them. Now, we need to understand the role of SSG. The SSG is the secretary to the government. It is the secretary to the government that transmits such letters, to the best of my knowledge. It is the secretary to the government that signs the letters that every commissioner that is appointed. He is the secretariat of the governor when it comes to making contact or communicating with the legislative and even the judiciary. That said, now the issue of back channel. Now, I'm not speaking for the governor, but from what I gathered, they were concerned. Anxiety is in the atmosphere. And their concern is that if we transmit this letter without letting the public know, these people will deny that there was no such thing. in turn have done it in the past, where there is transmission of information through the social media, where there is miscommunication and misinformation. And I'm not accusing any side, but both sides, okay? Now, whenever the tension is high, people tend to make mistakes. Has Fubara made mistake? Yes, it's obvious. Has the pro-Wike's group make mistake? Yes, it's obvious. But Geoffrey, my concern is not about these two people as I'm concerned about the people of Rivers State. I've gone round. The people are depressed. Some people are drinking their life away just to forget some of this issue, So the back and forth of communication and all that shouldn't take the place of the opportunity for peace. Like I said, the Right Honorable Speaker, Epelle, should have attended that meeting. Even if he doesn't want to attend, send a proxy and hear him out. And after hearing him out, walk out if you have to walk out. Why is it that he didn't do what Fubara had done? Show up and see if he will not be given a rival reception. Now he would have been balancing the act. You were invited for a meeting, you didn't show up. They told you, oh well, I'm bringing the issue to your house. You lock him out. I really don't understand. This is a sitting governor of a state. The disrespectful is so much. As much as sometimes too, Fubara has also shown, the balancing act. But my problem is not the politicians as much as my problem is the people. The people will suffer this the most. Now, let me ask one question. Epelle, Wike, Fubara, don't you guys think that you have cousins, brothers, grandfathers who are in Rivers State? At the end of this month, the anxiety is that they will not be able to pay salary. What are we going to say to that? Access to social services will be denied. What are we going to say to that? The insecurity will grow. What are we going to say to that? I say all of that to say to my good people of Rivers State who is listening to me, do not allow anyone to take advantage of this situation and cause you to take an action that will put democracy, the lives of the people in jeopardy. It was unfortunate, even what I heard yesterday, how the description of Ijaw people is looked at as people who are in the minority. Well, consult the Bible. God uses the minority sometimes to rule the majority. Is there in the Bible. The children of Issachar, they were only 200, but they were the command. Their brethren were at their command. Right. So God has a way of using the minority to lead the majority in a rightful way.
Well, Mr. Epelle.
So it doesn't matter. And ethnicity shouldn't even. Yeah. Go ahead.
I can sense the frustration, sometimes just tiredness, really, of having to talk about this since late 2023. For those who may have forgotten, this started late 2023, and we're still at it. And every time we seem to be getting to a resolution, the president intervenes, and we're like, oh, the president intervened, we're going to have peace. Things get worse. Or judgment is given, and you're saying, well, at least they should respect the court. Then it gets worse. Or someone is invited for a meeting, or there's an ultimatum given. The point is, it always seems as though peace is farther the closer it seems to get. And it's exhausting. And you've talked about the people. And my question is quite direct, which is what we started with earlier on the show. Is there a way that people can knock some sense into the active players? Because it looks like if the leaders, political leaders now, don't seem to want to, take responsibility and do what is right, then the onus is on the people to maybe knock some sense into them, Mr. Epelle. Is that even possible?
Kayode, my dear good friend, thank you for your question. I don't want you to be misquoted. When you say knock some sense, I don't want you to be misquoted. I know your heart. You have always stood for what is right. And thank you for the last time I asked the wrong question. I like the way you stood up and defended her. So that said, the Rivers people are peaceful people, no matter the provocation. Yes, we can toe the line of trying to get them to hear us, but I know metaphorically when you say knock some sense, you're not saying we should take the arms, no. However, yes, that's why people like me are here. I would have been in Abuja, where I live, and just relax, you understand? I would have not left Geneva to come here. So the direct answer to your question, there are people working behind the scene. And I'm one of those, and I want to continue to be one of those, to see how we can bring the two warring factions together so that they can hear and feel the pulse of the people and follow their heartbeat and truly act as though as people who are patriotic. I know that my line is probably having some challenges, but they can hear me, So no matter what they do, they cannot silence voices like mine. I have nothing to gain. Let everybody look at whether I'm not getting anything from anything. I don't need to get anything. I am for the people, and we will continue to engage. People like me, I have made offer. I went to Fubara and I told him, please remember that you're the leader of the people. And I'm proud that I gave my brother a hug and pat him on the back and said, continue to do what is right. History will be very kind to you. I have made overtures to the Wike group to meet with Wike, to meet with anybody in their group. And of course, when I send text message, they are no longer responding. And they have a right to choose whether to meet me or not. You understand? They might say, who am I? It doesn't matter. God can use anybody. Here's my story. Rejected by men, selected by God. I will continue to sue for peace. I will continue to balance my views. Yes, I may be sounding like I support football. I support him, he's my brother. I support Wike too, but we need to tone down the rhetorics and allow peace to reign. If truly and really, if I'm in the shoes of Wike, I would fight everything, I would do everything possible to protect my legacy. There are some reasonable legacy that he left behind. And this trend is on the path of destroying everything. And as a leader, please, Nyesom Wike, my brother, let's sit down and discuss what the issues are. Let's go to the negotiation table so that you can put your issues across, and all that. And let's not act like we are God. You can't be on national television giving your own conditions, and it's your way or the highway. Fubara, you can also not be on national television giving your own condition, your way or the highway. The two parties need to meet together. I think we will solve this problem, Kayode, if we can have one opportunity for these two individuals to meet in a room, look themselves in the eye and say, this is what you did to me. Cry, hug each other. It's not all these issues and people that are fueling and the amber of this discord. We need to allow these two people to meet together, to meet in one room and decide their fate so that this state can breathe.
Mr. Epelle, you have pretty much, sort of segued into my next line of thought in many different ways when you talk about some things actually happening behind the scene that we do not know. Because I was going to ask if, with the efforts made by the governor, writing to the assembly saying that he also made calls, and this response, that we see that he has gotten from the State Assembly, are they acting alone? Are the State Assembly members led by Honorable Martin Amewuli acting alone? And if, Minister Nyesom Wike is saying if the governor is impeached, nothing will happen, is the other party going for the jugular? Are we going to be seeing in the coming days, even after the budget presentation, attempts to impeach the governor, which is, sort of where we started off from about 2023?
I do respect your journalistic prowess and your ability to, sometimes telepathically pick the mind of your interviewer. Now, here's the truth. Number one, Wike doesn't have the constitutional power to impeach a governor. He can call for the impeachment. He's not a member of the National Assembly or State Assembly. So he doesn't have the constitutional power to do that. He has the right, in his personal opinion, to call for his impeachment. But the people that will execute the impeachment are the members of the State Assembly. That is number one. Number two, is there anybody beating the drum for the masquerade that is dancing? Of course there is. Let me quote what I heard in the video and some of the things making rounds in Port Harcourt. I was told, and I don't have any concrete evidence, but let me say this. I was told that at the point that the governor was coming to the gate, that they received a call from Abuja. Whoever made that call, I don't know, that they shouldn't see the governor. So it's a case of somebody beating the drum somewhere, and the State Assembly people are dancing the beatings of the drum or acting the script that they are giving. Now, that's unfair. That is very, very unfair. You know, so that has been the issue. If I remember the second question, you know, and if you don't mind, please, can you just repeat the second question? Because I was bent on getting the first question.
If Minister Nyesom Wike says if Governor Fubara is impeached, nothing will happen, that there'll be no consequence, is it inevitable that we're going to be seeing the State Assembly make impeachment moves in the coming days?
Well, there's a possibility. There's a possibility. But one thing I can tell you, and I'm not speaking based on any informed position, and I'm not speaking based on looking at the crystal ball. I'm speaking on what I know happens when the people is behind a leader. Let them go and try impeachment. They will not succeed. Nobody will impeach Fubara. And I say that openly on a national television, because he hasn't committed any impeachable offense. Nobody will impeach him. The people are solidly behind him. Will anything happen if he's impeached? No, the Rivers people are not troublesome the way we are painted. No, we are not, you know. But we will stand behind him and stand behind democracy, not about Fubara. Right. The truth is that if we don't stem the tide of this chaos, it can happen to any other person. It doesn't matter where that person is coming from. So this threat of impeachment making rounds should stop. You can't be saying you want peace, and on the other hand, you say you want to impeach. It doesn't make sense to me.
All right, Mr. Epelle.
You know, be a member of the National Assembly or the State Assembly, you know, let them try the impeachment, and the people will stand by the people that they will stand for, period.
Let's wind down in like 30 seconds, and I want you to speak directly to Minister Nyesom Wike and the governor, because the president twice now has tried to intervene. He said he's spoken with the governor a day before the meeting with Pandev. I don't know whether he's spoken to the minister. They're in the same cabinet, so perhaps he's spoken to him as well. Because right now, there's a lot of grandstanding, as we've seen. It's like nobody wants to talk to each other. Any way anyone can evade even a communication so that it will not be said, I heard and I did not oblige. I would like you to speak to both of them, Mr. Epelle, in 30 seconds.
Well, Geoffrey, I heard indeed what you said, but I was able to glean from the question.
I said you should speak to Minister Wike and the governor in 30 seconds.
Okay, so Mr. Wike, Mr. Fubara, one, this state is bigger than both of you. Absolutely. There's a need for both of you as friends, as brothers, as people who have worked together to sit in one room and put your personal differences aside, put your ego aside, and look at the state. This is the state that gave birth to both of you. Don't be in the in times where you, and when I say you, plural, will take or make decision that will destroy the very state that gave birth to you. You know, the little I know, and I'm talking about the person I've met, Fubara, I don't think is on that path. The person I know and the person I haven't met, Minister Wike, maybe he too does not want to do that. This is the state he ruled. So show good faith and come together and shame the war. Right now, Rivers State have become a laughing stock. Use every godly means to resolve this issue so that we can move forward. The world is watching. The people are watching. The people are tired. Let us breathe, both of you.
You know, and that's a fine place to hang it because undoubtedly, even without having visited Rivers in the last couple of years, many will probably be suffering from a fatigue of the political crisis in Rivers State. And Governor Sim Fubara has, in the last couple of hours, commented on X, and this is what he says. Though I was denied access, I will continue to look forward to a better Rivers State where the interest of the people is considered paramount, and we hope both parties will toe this line of peace. We must thank you very much, Mr. Epelle, who is the CEO of TAF Africa, for your time and thoughts on this particular conversation. Oh dear.
Thank you.
At least,
that's the difference. That's the difference. That's the difference. Look at that statement and the statement of someone saying we are in the minority. It doesn't make sense, and it should stop.
Thank you so much, Mr. Epelle. From here, we'll move to another very important conversation. We'll be looking at the economy and the work and contribution of a particular agency of government towards that all-important success. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about customs. Oh yes, the customs has a big role in, well, contributing to Nigeria's economy, very vital role. There's the revenue bit, but there's also the ease of business, that whole importing, exporting. Customs is right in the middle of it. And we're joined on the program this morning by the spokesperson of the Nigeria Customs Service, Abdullahi Maywada. He's live with us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, AC. You're welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So let's get right into it. There's always been that debate about the role of customs. It looks like there's always a talk about revenue generation. Okay, you have this target, you meet it, and the next year you even set a higher target, you meet it, and you set a much higher target, and the businesses are saying, can you slow down a bit and let us breathe in that sense? So how are you able to balance that, your drive for revenue, and then the very important role of ensuring businesses, those who engage in export and import, are also able to do their business with ease and not be stifled or suffocated in that sense, Mr. Maywada?
Well, once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to state it very clearly that customs is sitting on a tripod of three core functions. We collect revenue on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. We facilitate trade, and facilitation of trade entails ease of doing business, having seamless processes and procedures, as well as suppression of smuggling. So these 3-4 core functions are interwoven. If you concentrate on revenue generation at the detriment of suppression of smuggling, definitely the system will collapse. If you also focus on trade facilitation and give less preference to revenue collection, also there will be an issue. So we strike a balance between those 3 core functions in order to stabilize the economy, both in terms of security, both economically, for the system to be very viable. So our critical role in trade facilitation, ease of doing business is very important and is very germane. So also the revenue generation. So it's a tripod, and I'm sure a tripod cannot stand on 2 legs or 1. So it must be 3 for you to have that balance.
So let's pick the tripod one, or at least the legs, one after the other. And I want to start with smuggling, right? Because that's also a major challenge for the customs. You can see reports about 1 killed as customs smugglers clash in Ogun. The customs also talking about how, smuggling inflicts pain on the economy in that sense. But over the past few months, journalist Usai Shoyombo has been saying good morning to the customs, giving out information about smuggling, with allegations of even officers within the customs facilitating smuggling activities. And I want to know how well the customs is working with him, or with the information he's given, being able to also curb smuggling and also look for the moles within. How well is that going?
Well, let me start by saying we have a very critical role to suppress smuggling to the barest minimum. And mark my words, I said suppression of smuggling. There's nowhere in the world where a custom administration is able to end smuggling or to truncate smuggling 100%. Our role is to suppress smuggling to the barest minimum. Now, what are we doing to be very effective in our anti-smuggling operations? Which means there must be some goods that will come in illegitimately, and in the process of that, we will be able to also substantially intercept some of the goods that will come into the country. So we have a very vast terrain. People will try to smuggle goods through our airports. Smugglers will try to smuggle through our seaports. It could be through our land borders. What are we doing differently from what we have been doing before? I'm not saying we have arrived where we need to reach our destination. Surely there is always room for improvement. But however, in the last few years or in the last few months, you have seen scourge of interceptions of different calibers of goods, those that are even harmful to our health, those that are also inimical to our security as a nation. We have numerous interceptions. Just recently, just a few days back, we are going to issue a statement. We intercepted money laundering. We intercepted a huge amount of dollars as well as Saudi riyals coming in through Malam Aminu Kano International Airport. In the same place where he focused, Nigeria is so bigger than between Ogun State and Semi borders. We have so many vast terrain, porous terrains, that customs are working assiduously to make sure that smuggling is suppressed to the barest minimum. You can see numerous interception of narcotics, hard drugs that are so visible. We hand over through our waterways, our Western Marine, through our land borders, and which we have often hand over to NDLA. You can see often interception of even rice, turkey, and so on, so items that are not supposed to come in. So we are not saying we are perfect, we are not saying we are doing well, but I think we can say there's always room for improvement. One of the things we have done is now to look at the issue of, intelligence-driven operations. We have tried to embed technology into what we are using. Now we are using geospatial intelligence, we are using a GIS system, satellite remote sensing, to see all those routes that are perpetuated by smugglers. Today, as I'm talking to you, in the next few hours, I will be in Taraba, Jalingo, by the grace of God. What are we there? To showcase some of the items we have seized. We have worked so hard to make sure that smuggling of petroleum products outside the country is also truncated through an operation called Operation Whirlwind. And you will never see a vehicle reaching Operation Whirlwind in anywhere in Nigeria, because the operation is intelligence-driven, and we are also using technology. So in terms of interception, we are doing very well. But yes, there's room for improvement. Now, for the issue of most among us, I'm not saying 100% customs, all of them. We might have one or two officers or men that might aid smuggling. But what do we do in that? We have mechanisms. We have first the preventive measure, that is the deterrent. What do we do in terms of deterrent? Make sure that our officers are well taken care of in terms of their motivation for them to perform their functions effectively. Now, if any officer is found wanting, yes, there are mechanisms, there are disciplinary measures deployed by customs, and if somebody is established that he has committed that offense, definitely the wrath of the law will be invoked on that person. So we have mechanism, we have deterrence, and we also have disciplinary measures.
Mr. Maiwada, commendable efforts, but a lot more needs to be done. So I want you to give us data to support some of the things you've said. People allege that there's a lot of corruption in the customs because of the things they're exposed to in terms of the monies they generate and the seizures that happen in that space. And these customs officers are human beings, they are Nigerians. So people always allege that there's a large-scale corruption within the customs. These are allegations. I want to know, beyond what you said, what exactly is the customs doing to rebuild confidence in the public to change that perception? Because at least with the EFCC, that allegation has also been made. But we've seen EFCC suspend their officers, and this is published. We can go, if I just Google now, I'm going to see this officer, that officer, or a certain number of officers suspended and what they did. Either they took money that were seized or they were in one form of infraction. When was the last time we saw such with the customs, and what was the scale of it? Because it's not just about internal mechanism trying to resolve corruption that the people perceive is endemic in the custom. It's also to rebuild the public confidence in the custom that the perception is wrong. So give me facts as to when was the last time a corrupt official was shown the door or reprimanded sternly as a deterrent, not just internal mechanism.
Well, let me build your answer with in customs administration globally, customs believes in integrity, and that's why we have what is called Arusha Declaration. Arusha Declaration is a declaration that dwells on integrity of custom officers. In resonance to what you have said, currently, as I'm talking to you, customs is undergoing a process of SIPs. And what does SIPs stands for? Customs Integrity Perception Survey. Who are going to be respondent to that survey? Our stakeholders will be part of it, and custom officers will also be part of it, respondent of that survey. And this will be done by an independent body, by the World Customs Organization in collaboration with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Now, this integrity, it's meant to respond to the issues we are saying. How do you restore confidence in what we are doing? We want to see how does the stakeholder perceive us in terms of our discharge of our responsibilities. Now, you raise a question of how many people have been, disciplinary measures have been invoked on them, and we have not made it public. I want to say it clearly. We have a process. I can mention number of officers that have been dismissed. Some have been demoted in ranks. Some have been rusticated, and so on and so forth. So we have disciplinary mechanism, and I know an officer that was dismissed for a case of fraud. I have officers who have cases of suspension that are currently going on. There is no board meeting of the Nigeria Customs Service that will take place without invoking issues that has to do with either disciplinary measures, appointment, promotion, and discipline of officers. So we have them in numbers.
Mr. Maiwada, that is why I am giving you the opportunity to disclose to Nigerians who don't trust that there is no large-scale corruption in the customs, to say the names or some of the things they did. I gave you an example of the EFCC. All you have to do is on your device, Google. You will find the names or at least what the infractions are that they committed, that the EFCC had to show them the way out. I don't think we have that. I just cited an example. An officer was dismissed for fraud. Of recently, in the last two board meetings, there was a dismissal case of an officer who was found wanting. What was the level of the officer? Yes. What was the rank of the officer? What was the rank of the officer?
the rank of, he should be Chief Superintendent of Customs.
Okay. Kairi.
Well, Bukola, I know you might want to comment before I throw in my next question.
And we have a case when a member of a management team of a customs was also dismissed. These are cases that we have them very available. You can Google also the so-called Google and you will see it. There is no board meeting of customs that will take place that you won't see cases of dismissal or suspension of officers among across the ranks in customs.
Well, Esmiwada, the point here is also have it published from time to time so Nigerians can track and say, oh, indeed, the work you're doing behind the scenes. Yes, so I think that's the point being made. But Bukola, over to you now.
Yes, and that, indeed, Kari and Jeffrey, those are very important questions. Accountability is key. But let's look at other issues now. And I'm wondering if we're going to get any update, Mr. Mewada, on the proposed waiver on food importation by the federal government from last year. What we hear was that your agency didn't get correspondence from the CBN on the list of companies that were supposed to qualify for the tax waiver. And the price of food is still skyrocketing, particularly, for staples for Nigerians. So is there any update that you can provide for us on this particular one? What, correspondence are you getting from the top hierarchy of the Nigeria Customs Service about whether this policy is not going to, show up again anytime soon, or it's, dead, and Nigerians can pretty much consider that it was a promise that was not delivered?
Thank you very much. I think maybe we have a contradicting data between me and you, because I also go to the same market you find yourself to buy staples. And I can tell you substantially the price of food items have come down, based on my own market that I used to go and buy food for myself. So maybe we have different contrasting data between me and you. Now, secondly, on the
Mr. Mayweather, how much are you buying a bag of rice?
In terms of the waiver.
How much are you buying a bag of rice?
Waiver, well, we don't need to go into details, but I know based on what I have, the price of staples.
Well, I'm wondering because Nigerians are buying a bag of rice for above 100,000 naira. So we cannot make a blanket statement that generally price of all staples are going down. So you can go ahead with your answer, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So that will be a debate for another date, but I'm just trying to tell you the staples food have subsided in terms of price. Now, on the issue of a waiver on some categories of food items, I think I need to use this opportunity to educate members of the public that some thought that that policy is meant for you to just go in, place your order, import food items into Nigeria. No. There are a requirement that was placed by the federal government of Nigeria, regulation and guidelines required for the implementation of that policy. Ours, as responsive government agencies, our responsibility is to implement government policy. If some people have come in and we have the list and they have met the criteria set by the federal government, definitely we are going to implement that policy. So our role is to implement, and we are not responsible for those who could not meet the criteria set by the government. So that is our role, and that is all I can say in terms of implementation of policy.
Someone was joking that perhaps you probably do not buy rice being a member of the Customs Service, but that's another kettle of fish.
I eat local rice. I buy rice from local market, produced in Nigeria, and processed in Nigeria. I don't even eat foreign rice, so I know the price, and I know what I'm saying.
So do you buy?
Of course I buy rice.
Okay, we'll have to take...
This Ramadan I bought rice, and the rice I bought is it was produced in Nigeria. And I can categorically state, if you go to my house in Kano today, I have local rice in my house. What I gave to some people or my relatives is local rice produced in Nigeria.
We'll have to take your word for it if you say that you indeed go to the market to buy rice. Very quickly, before we let you go, okay, I'm told that we're totally out of time. But okay, I can slot in just one more, sir. The proposal by the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms Bills for the transition of the FIRS to the Nigeria Revenue Service, part of the component seems to suggest that the Customs Service will no longer collect revenue and that revenue will be digitized. I wonder, there's been some advocacy by the Customs, but what can you tell us about the current position of the Customs, particularly with ongoing amendments of those bills before the National Assembly?
What I will tell you clearly is we believe in tax reform, because as an agency of government, we have a law that was over 63 years old. We also reviewed our law because we believe that tax laws need to be reviewed because of the nature embedding technology and some innovation in the collection of revenue. So we are in support of tax reform. And the issues, the gray areas that were mentioned are issues that are still subjected to public hearing. And I'm sure I may not be competent enough to comment on that. I'm sure the agencies of government responsible for implementation of those laws are going to do what will be the best in the interest of public interest. So we are 100% in support of that law because we have benefited from review of our law, and that is why you are seeing upward collection of revenue. We collected a whooping amount in 2024 because our laws enable us to use technology. Before, in our laws, we don't have authorized economic operators, we don't have advanced ruling, we don't have the technology embedded into our law, and this enables us to perform better optimally. So I think tax reform is something that is good for Nigerians. However, other deliberations on the gray area is left for those who are responsible to look into those gray areas.
Definitely, but you will also be a part of that whole process because you know where the issues are and you will be the ones to implement it. But just quickly, less than 30 seconds before we go, how long does it take now, or should it take, to clear goods at the ports? What is the target now? What is the goal, the golden rule for the customs?
Well, we have launched an ambitious trade modernization project. We have launched an indigenous software called Bodogu. It's a unified custom management system that was developed by Nigerians and in Nigeria. It's one of the process in which we want to use to make sure that trade is facilitated. We have brought in new scanners, and very soon we are going to install a gantry scanner in Apapa under our trade modernization project concession agreement. We are bringing new scanners in Tinkan and in our airports. So we are sure that with these innovations, with this development, there is going to be effectiveness and efficiency in the way we handle our processes and procedures as an agency of government. So definitely I cannot tell you time. It depends on the nature of good. It depends on the level of compliance. If you are an AO operator, which we trusted traders, you have the opportunity to swiftly to fast-track the movement of your goods. And if you are non-compliant, definitely there will be delay because you are going to be subjected to scrutiny because of our risk engine determining how fast in which your goods will go. So we are working assiduously to make sure that trade is seamless and we make things better in terms of our services to Nigerians.
Well, we have to thank you so much, Assistant Controller of Customs, Mr. Maywada Abdullahi. Thank you for your time as a spokesperson of the Nigeria Customs Service. We're hoping you give time frame, 24 hours, 36 hours, or 8 hours. But clearly, this is not the end of the conversation. I will be having you very soon, and even the Controller General to speak on some other issues. But thank you, and I wish you the very best.
I will be glad to be with you again. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, there you have it. Would like to hear feedback from Nigerians on, well, just your experience with the customs. But in the meantime, let's come over to Lagos and talk about innovation. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
We've been joined on the program by the Commissioner of Innovation, Science and Technology in Lagos State, Mr. Olatubosun Alake. He joins us right here. Thank you so much, Mr. Bosun, for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
For the benefit of full disclosure, when you hear Alake, are you related to the Minister of Still?
I get that.
A Minister of Solid Mineral Development.
I get that question a lot. Yes, he's my father, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And incidentally, you have Olatunbosun, which is also the name of a minister.
Yeah, a Minister of Communication.
Exactly.
So you're indirectly in cabinet now with names.
The fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. It's a spitting image of his father.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's get to the business of the day. When Lagos says it wants to build, or the aspiration is to actually build perhaps one of the most sophisticated or the leading innovation-driven economy, what does Lagos mean by that? You're the key man here.
So Lagos's philosophy on driving innovation and technology is to use technology to improve the living standards of people. When you look at our innovation and technology master plan based on 7 major pillars, you look at infrastructure, you look at talent, you look at finance, you look at advocacy, look at communication, you look at very many areas where we think that different tactical measures can be used to drive innovation. I'll give an example. In infrastructure, for instance, improving connectivity. Over the past 3 to 4 years, we've been implementing a project to improve the connectivity for Lagosians. So our Metro Fiber project, for instance, has deployed over 2,500 kilometers of duct infrastructure for fiber optic companies, for infrastructure providers, to improve the connectivity of people, right? This can be used to democratize education, can be used to improve logistics for internet-based companies. And so when we look at technology, it's about using technology to improve the lives of citizens and ultimately to create economic value.
How is that coming, by the way, in terms of the aspiration efforts as against result gotten, percentage, right, if you will?
Right. So over the past 3 to 4 years, like I said earlier, we've done over 2,500 kilometers of duct infrastructure, which has improved the connectivity to areas such as Ikorodu, in Alimosho, where perhaps before the business case for telecommunication companies might not have justified it. We have reduced sort of like the cost of deployment for some of these companies to reach those areas where they might not have reached before. And so in doing that, for some of them, a little bit around 4 to 7% reduction of deployment to those areas. We've also seen a deepening of connectivity, even in dense areas such as VI, Ikoyi, Ikeja, the Central Business District, and the like. But it's not only infrastructure. We're also looking at funding for tech-enabled businesses. Today, Lagos State is the largest funder of innovative companies by any state in the nation. Since 2020, we've been funding innovation startups. We've been funding technology companies through our Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council. We funded companies in fintech, agri-tech, construction tech, circular economy, environmental science, right? And we are seeing quite a bit of those companies also raising bigger checks to drive economic value. Apart from that, we also fund research and development initiatives in universities, right? Because our philosophy in Lagos is that we are not just supposed to adopt the technology, but actually to create, right? And so through our research and development efforts, we've been able to fund R&D initiatives, and we actually have a patent. We got our first patent in 2021 through a multidisciplinary team of researchers in Unilab, created a medical device, which is going through clinical trials at the moment. So in different verticals, we've been pushing the envelope of science and technology in Lagos State to make sure that the living standards of our people are improved.
And that sounds exciting. You know, that's apart from your other initiatives, which would be the Safe City project and the Tier 3 data center that the state government is working on.
Right.
So, but as we always say on the program, that there's a difference between, you know, effort and result. I'd like you to speak to, the outcomes of these funding efforts for these tech startups to also be able to own the innovation space in Lagos, particularly with this many initiatives that you're coming up with, because how are they, being the ones as indigenous companies taking part in this fiber optic intervention that the state government is doing, for instance? How are they the ones, taking up the contract for the safety camera project that the Lagos state government is putting in place? So how are they, being the ones that are enlisted to provide these services such that we're not importing them again from abroad?
So we have many research and development projects in our universities that even seek to reverse engineer some of these solutions so that we formulate our own unique solutions, right? If we look at a particular project, for instance, that we funded in Unilag, is using AI models to improve medical imaging outcomes. So for instance, a particular neural network called convolutional neural networks to read medical images, MRI scans, right, to improve the diagnosis, right, for different kinds of ailments. The goal of that is to improve the time frame it takes for a medical practitioner to diagnose a patient, thereby improving health outcomes, right? These are some of the original things that we are doing in our research and development projects. But to your point, even some of the technology we are using on the security side, so the Safe City, you mentioned the Safe City and things like that. We fund even hardware projects, right, in our universities as well, that look at alternative solutions to see how, number one, we can reverse engineer, we can put our own original parts. The Medical Device Research and Development Initiative I talked about earlier was engineering a medical device, specifically a ventilator. So at the time of the COVID outbreak, medical devices, ventilators specifically, were around the $13,000 to $15,000 mark. So the idea was that how can we engineer something that was sub $1,000 and could be deployed to rural areas? That means could be used even where the power goes out, right? So we engineered a dual motor ambu-bag ventilator. Dual motor meaning when one motor fails, the other one takes over, powered also by solar and sub $1,000, which means even hospitals with lower OPEX could afford it, right? And we actually engineered a solution
and it's
like
efficient.
that. Yes, efficient, right?
So that cuts off, the dependence on importation of the particular equipment.
Of that particular equipment. Now, of course, for that particular equipment to be certified, it needs to go through clinical trials. So clinical trials have been going on right now to certify it as a device, and then mass production happens after that. So these are some of the efforts that we are looking at, not just import substitution, but creating original solutions. Some of the parts that were used in that device were engineered here, even though some of the modules too we had to bring in. But as you know, vertical integration happens over time, right? And these are some of the efforts that we are working on.
And that's really charity here, considering the fact that Lagos is like our own California of sorts. So you have the Silicon Valley and Hollywood.
Correct, in a manner of speaking.
In a manner of speaking,
yes.
Right? So you have, where's the Silicon Valley in Lagos?
Yaba.
Yaba.
Yaba, right? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if Nollywood has a location. It's just everywhere in Lagos.
Well, they used to say it was Surulere.
Surulere
but that has since proliferated out.
Thanks to the digital age, right?
Yeah.
But it's great to see the potential, and I know you've talked about a $9 billion potential inherent in Lagos tech space. I think you've talked about that time and again. But I want us to connect the potential with the reality, or with the, with the challenges that we have, right? So how are you able to use tech or drive tech, because you play a role of policy direction and encouraging this space, right? You don't necessarily get into it. How are we able to encourage tech to solve the very challenging situations in Lagos? So I can talk about what I see on a daily basis. Pollution, for example, the price of rent, Okay, let me start in order of importance. Price of rent for some people is probably the most pressing challenge, right? And availability of, houses or apartments for people to stay. There's a pollution bit. There is seeing people chasing buses just to collect 50 naira or 100 naira, or fights on the road. All of those challenges, how are you, and I want you to speak specifically to that, how are you encouraging the tech space to solve these problems beyond just everybody trying to get a startup that does the same thing over and over again?
Great. So let me speak specifically to some of the things you mentioned. Let me start with the price of food. For instance, that's a major issue, not just in Lagos, across the country. So one of the startups that we funded when we started in 2020 was a company called Parley, right? What Parley does is that it aggregates buying options for consumers, right? In a case where an individual goes to a market to purchase food, right, it was seen that the entrepreneur, Luther, that's his name, saw that when you bulk buy, it's cheaper for each of the individuals. So he created an app that will aggregate buying requests for different people. So 10 people can aggregate their buying. Behind the app, people will buy for them and will distribute to them. So there is at least a 30% savings that was experienced by some of the consumers of the app. And Parley is doing quite well. So if you go to priceparley.com, you will see that solution available and working. And it's a company that is quite successful now, between a 25 and 30% profit margin that they're experiencing. And through some of our funding, they've even expanded to places like Abuja and Port Harcourt. And so that's a practical example, right? So when you look at rent, right, there have been efforts by Lagos State to also try to bring down the cost of rent through the Lagos State's rental policy, trying to bring in monthly rents. Now, rent is not just a technology issue. It's also a policy issue. It's also a demand and supply issue. So there are many factors. But one of the things we've done from a technology perspective is to fund companies that help bring renters to landlords as well.
So you cut all of those?
Yes, so you cut some of the middlemen that increase the price of rent.
And the stress of having to go around.
And the stress of having to go through all those multiple channels, because the more channels you have, the more expensive your rent or your sale price is, right? Apart from that, when you look at even the science of buildings, right, we funded companies, right, that have looked at how to use more sustainable materials in building houses, right? So we funded a company that used, for instance, plastics waste to augment the composition of building blocks, right? So when you look at PET bottles, when you look at waste materials, engineering all of that into the building block mix to reduce the price of blocks, and in tests actually increase the tensile strength, right? So houses last longer and things like that. Blocks are a little bit cheaper. So companies across the board. When you talk about transportation, for instance, I'm sure you are aware of our carry card, right?
That's part of your work.
Yes, the carry card was a startup that we had worked with in Lagos that designed that transportation solution for all our transportation mix. So the buses, the train, the blue line, the boats as well. So you can use that solution across all those transportation channels.
But we still see those guys chasing the buses.
Right.
That bit.
So
the carry card doesn't work there.
So the carry card works with the BRT buses, the large buses, because they are very organized. Now, you know the downfall buses, for instance, have been here for years. So it's going to take time to transition those into the program and out so that it covers the entire transport system.
In talking about another element which has to do with waste management, for instance, maybe you answer that in passing, but in closing, commendable effort, at least when you were mentioning, the only one I can easily relate with is the carry card. Whenever I use the BRLC bus, at least I can relate. But it sounds to me like there's a lot of beautiful things that have been done, but a lot of people don't know it exists. Correct. So what are you doing in terms of awareness? Like the one, I don't know what you call it now, the one that has to do with bulk buying.
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard of it. I don't know how many Nigerians know about it.
Right.
Because anything that can cut prices of food right now, everybody's going to rush to it. So awareness, what are you doing in terms of creating awareness of available solutions you've funded? And in terms of sustainability, let's go to the schools. What are you doing?
And you can bring the bill in, because I think this will give it some sort of longevity, the innovation bill you're working on.
Yeah, the bill, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, part of the advocacy and communication efforts is why I'm here this morning, to tell Lagosians watching about the many efforts that are going on in the technology and innovation space. So for the food solution that I mentioned, it's called priceparley.com. Anybody can actually go on the website and use it and, testify to some of the savings they might have made on it. When it comes to schools, there are many efforts that are being championed through the Ministry of Education, for instance, right? We had a comprehensive school intervention where we augmented the curriculum a bit to include interventions as robotics, software programming, and things like that, to make sure that young people are also getting the technology skills they need to be productive in this day and age. And one of the things that I think is very important from an education perspective is also the innovation bill that he had just mentioned. The idea is that we need to bridge the gap between academia and industry. So academia needs to intervene and train what industry needs. And that is what the innovation bill that we're working on seeks to do, is that academia is applied. And so industry consistently feeds into academia about the skills it needs. And so academia can train, and so there is a demand pipeline of driving people from academia to industry, because that is the only way we can develop as a nation. When we have demand-driven solutions that are being funneled into the university circuit, into the secondary school circuit, right? And how do we do that? We need to put incentives, right, for industry to work with academia. We need to fund academia for the R&D projects that I had mentioned earlier, so that these solutions are being commercialized, they are being used in industry to raise the standard of living for the people. So the innovation bill seeks to incentivize the entire innovation pipeline of Lagos, so that we have a pipeline that solves economic problems, that solve societal problems. And that is the purpose of the innovation bill.
When you were talking, my mind was saying where to go. The idea is quite brilliant, and we hope the execution. And you maybe after the show, you give us a copy of that bill. Let's also take a look at it and see how we can, understand it even further in educating people. But I think that nobody can argue to the effect that it's quite brilliant, because we've always complained about just churning out graduates and people leaving schools and nothing to do, and we keep that cycle. So if this bill intends to do that, I think it's a way to go. Wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Olatuboso Alake is the Commissioner of Information Science and Technology, Lagos. Thank you for coming on the program.
Innovation.
Innovation.
There's
Commissioner?
a different commissioner.
Innovation, Science and Technology.
Okay, so that's mixed. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Innovation, Science and Technology. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to other part of the program. We're not done yet. Join us again. Welcome back. And away from the innovation, let's talk about what the markets are saying. Larry Williams, our guy, okay, he's our guy, but he's our business anchor and correspondent. Larry, the CPI out from the U.S. yesterday.
Yes.
What are the markets saying?
The markets are saying a lot of things right now, but they're playing some kind of symphony that if you're very sensitive, as a sensitive investor, you know the direction things are going in 2025. But let's start from the home front now. Start with the stock market. We're seeing 106,090. That's the close we had for yesterday, down 0.1%. That's for the day, for the trading day yesterday. Week to date, we're down 0.4% right there. We can see through the numbers. Quarter to date, that's still good, 3.1%. The Q1 is still looking good for the local boss now, with most of the bellwether stocks still holding on to most of their gains. But we're seeing some stocks struggle yesterday, like the likes of corn oil there. And but quarter to date, year to date, was still good, 3.1%. We saw MTN was the most traded stock by value yesterday in the trade. Then for the forex market, we're still seeing some kind of weakening there. For the NFM rate, 1,538 naira, that was a close. For the FX market, you see the naira still holding on, 0.16% down though. We're still seeing weakness with heavy demand there for the dollar, but what could
possibly be driving that demand?
Yeah, you know, some of the travel, you know, some of the pilgrimage travel still going on at this point, Hajj, most especially. So we're still seeing a high demand there for the US dollar, but the CBN is still, you know, coming in to intervene, you know, once in a while, you know, but that supply didn't match up, you know, yesterday. So we saw weakness. Then moving on to the US, the CPI data, that was for February. That was, investors were expecting the numbers to come out at about 2.9% from 3.0%, but it came out softer than expected at 2.8%. And, you know, most investors are just trying to get a gauge on what the U.S. Fed is going to do with interest rates, you know, going forward in 2025.
Looking at all the tariff war.
Exactly.
And how that impacts everything.
Yeah, so, you know, we all expect that with the tariff wars, you know, inflation will go up, you know, in the U.S., and that would, you know, somehow, you know, trickle down into the global economy. But February, that was good, but I'm sure this is not enough for the U.S. Fed to make a decision.
Just before we let you run, let's go to what's going on in the crypto space.
All right, yeah, and yeah, this softer than expected CPI data impacted the crypto market and most of the stocks yesterday. We see Bitcoin there, big bounce, did touch $84,000, up 2.28% today, but Ethereum's pulled back some of those gains, 0.10%, down $1,869. That's the trade today. So that's the good news, because the week started really rocky, you know, for most of the markets. Some are, you know, down. Some portfolios are down a lot.
I totally understand
at this point.
Totally in red. But Umar, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed as far as what the markets are saying, whether it's the crypto market or the stock market, whether it's fixed or...
You need to make that investment decision anyway.
At the end of the day, Larry Williams, as always, thank you for bringing us up to speed. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to the very last leg of the conversation. Join us again.
Time now to explore color and images, and we have a very distinguished guest. She's Mary Jane Ovayoza, abstract artist, abstract expressionist, and she's right here in our Lagos studio. Mary, you're looking beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
But your look belies the abundance of your talent. Your images are quite compelling. And to add to that, you're also a singer and a guitarist.
Yes.
So for you, which trumps the other? Which would you rather be primarily?
I don't think I can choose one. They're both part of who I am, so I can't really choose one over the other.
With which do you express yourself the most?
Like, they both mean different. I express myself to both of them in different ways, so I don't know if I can really compare. I get to express myself with both of them.
Okay, so let's talk about your art. tell us about the abstract images and the pretty much direct images that the layman can understand. Talk to us about some of the inspiration behind the expression of those very beautiful images.
Okay, some of the inspiration. Okay, I majorly do abstract art. Like most of my artworks, 80% of not all my artworks are like abstract expressionism. It's the art that sorry. Okay, so I get my inspiration through just everyday life, basically, through just experiencing life, meeting people, and just experiencing people in different ways. And even it can literally be through watching movies, or just, I get the inspiration it just comes like a wave. And the kind of art I do, abstract expressionism, and when it comes, I just express myself on canvas.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just use lines, colors, and patterns, texture. It's kind of difficult to explain because it's like expressing feelings and emotions, just putting it out there. It's just the raw form of art. So basically, that's it.
Interesting. You said when it comes,
yeah.
Right? So where does it come from?
Where it comes from?
Because I'm very curious about that. Where does it come from? Where do you think it comes from, all of this?
Where I think it just comes from, it just evolves, it just forms in my head. It forms in my mind, and then I just have to create something. I just have to like translate those emotions or those thoughts or just memories through colors. I can't tell you where it comes from. It just comes.
Perhaps you're asking, what kind of emotion works for you to find expression? Anger, happiness, sadness?
Yeah.
What kind of emotion?
Okay. Any emotion, joy, even anger, yes, chaos.
So for this one, for instance, what emotion are you communicating with these abstract images?
Which particular one?
There's ones that are on display now.
Okay, when I did every single one of them, each of them, I was in a particular headspace for different, like I did them on different, obviously on different days. So it depends on what I was going through or what I was feeling at that time when I actually did a particular artwork. So you have to like specify the one.
This one.
Okay, this one.
Okay, this one is titled Shadow and Leaf. I can't really remember what I was thinking that day. Like, this kind of abstract, it's hard to explain. It's more of a feeling, more feeling than action. It gets to people through, like, what I felt, for instance, when I was creating it can be totally different from what a viewer sees. For instance, 5 people can view it, and they get 5 different interpretations, different from what I felt when I was creating, what inspired me to create it. That's the beauty of abstract expressionism. That's just the beauty of abstract, of art as a whole.
So somebody who wants to express himself or herself, well, you must have a skill in painting. Or you just do anything and anybody can interpret it to mean anything.
If you want to express yourself.
For instance, now we're looking at your work. You're an artist.
Yes.
For people who are not blessed artistically, I want to learn. Is it that they can just put up a canvas and whatever they come up with as their heads, within their headspace, can work for anything? Or there is a pattern to this art?
Yeah, there is. How can I explain this? I don't think everybody can just express themselves through okay, it's an inherent talent for me, and it's something I can just do. I just get to do, like I'm able to do. And for someone who sorry, I don't know how to. I don't really know how to.
You have to go to school.
Right? Well, not even necessarily, because I didn't actually go to school
to learn this.
Exactly.
So this is going to be tough for her, because it's like almost saying the Mayans should try to translate what they're doing to English right now. It's on another plane entirely. So trying to simplify it might be tricky for you, but you have to help us, because we're just trying to see through your lens. But I want you to speak to what this is for you. For some, art is some form of expression and outlet, because there's a lot bottled in. You just want to let it out. Like, I can't deal with this alone. For some, it is actually therapy. Someone I know recently said that his therapist asked him to buy a drawing book and just paint on it as some form of therapy, right? So for some, art is also therapy. For some, art is their savior. Art came and it just saved them from something terrible. Artists are some of the most interesting people, right? For some, it's just commercial. Once they are drawing, they are seeing $10,000 as they're painting. So what is it for you?
For me, art is a form of expression. It's a language. It's a language that speaks to emotions and experiences, and it's just, it's an outflow, it's an outlet. So art just helps me create, to connect to people. It's just like a bridge between myself and the world and the viewer. It's a way of, it's a voice. Yeah, it's my voice. It's a way of expressing myself. So
let's talk about business.
Okay, in closing, how long did it take you to paint this?
This one, I think it took me 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks.
So if you were to sell this, for instance, how much will it cost?
How much I'll sell it? We can talk about that.
So has it been lucrative for you?
Lucrative? Yeah, it pretty much is lucrative, because art, okay, the way I do my art, of course, art is a constant for me. It's not the only thing I do, but it's a constant. And the reason why I had to intentionally make it something that I don't major in is because I want to preserve its essence. I don't want it to be that I do art just to, but it gets to a point where through the pressure, the essence, it compromises the essence of art. So I want to keep it in there. I want to preserve that as raw form and stay true to my expression, my emotions and all. So it's something I just do. So it's sustainable because I do it from a place of calmness, without pressure. I have other things I do. It to always be constant for me. So,
and your soft-spoken nature, you know, your reticence makes me wonder, is it lonely also for you? Because this is deep form of expression. Do you feel sometimes lonely?
Lonely? Of course not. No, the opposite is actually.
It's not lonely at the top.
It's very fun. Creating is actually fun. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of feelings. So of course not.
Fantastic.
We've had a great time on this conversation and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Perhaps when we have you next, you'll be singing and playing the guitar for us. Mary Jane Ovayoza has been our guest on this particular segment. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful talent with us.
Thank you.
And that's how it's been with our usual bumper package for you. We'll be back with the very last one, the home stretch, tomorrow. Thank you for being there. I am Bukola Koka.
Hopefully there should be peace in the coming days in Rivers. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.
I'm Kaido Kikiolu. Sunrise Daily is next. Make sure you have a fantastic day ahead.